So one of the things that I want to talk about is how LinkedIn Sales Solutions, how the department that I'm in, how within the marketing organization, how we're empowering our sales team, 300 plus globally, through content and just general awareness of what our goal is. And I think that this learning is going to be helpful to all the different companies, large and small, in the room. So first and foremost is thinking like a publisher. As a marketing person, my sole job is to create content that is valuable to our customers, to our prospects, to our future buyers. But not just to them, but also valuable to our employees. Because one of the jobs that I have is how do we educate our internal employees about the value of LinkedIn and social selling at large. So thinking like a publisher is how are we going to create content at scale that is going to fill the top of the funnel, as well as educate our employees as our company grows to understand what the importance is of this social selling movement. So what we do is we create big rock content. The big rocks are the ebooks, the guides, the 20, 30-page pieces of documentation that talk about tips and strategies and best practices. And then we take that big rock and then we break it down. We break it into 15, 20 different rocks. It could be everything from blog posts. It could be quick snippets like call-out sections. It could be everything down to little pebbles like little status updates. But you take this content and you break it down. You break the rock down even further. And then from that, you take that content and you rebuild from it. You become an architect. And you take these 3 individual ebooks, and then you shuffle the chapters around. Because it's all strategy, because it's best practices, and it's all talking around the same theme holistically, you start rebuilding the content so that it becomes new content. It takes on a new life of its own. And then you empower your employees to take that and then reshare it, which turns into the second part of turning your employees into distributors. So as a marketer, we have many tools in our toolbox. We've got email, I use many social channels, but the most valuable thing I've found in my career was my employees. How do we activate our employees to become our distribution model? Basically mini marketers. I don't like to call them mini marketers because it's actually uplifting them in the same process. So as we distribute the content through our sales teams, we realized that they are connected to hundreds, 1,000 individuals, typically within the same market that we're trying to sell into. So when they leverage their connections and they're sending out the content that we're creating and breaking down and restructuring from them, they realize that they're becoming experts in their field. They become the thought leaders. And as they become the distributors of that content, our future buyers, our prospects, start leaning into those individuals. They lean into my sales team. And they start realizing that that salesperson is a thought leader of their own. Then they start using them as that resource. They start coming to them and asking them questions. They start referencing the ebooks and the content and the blog posts and the updates that they're sharing for future conversations. Sales rep wins, the customer wins. It's a cycle of distribution and content creation that has been working well for me for the last 5 or 6 years. And then you start empowering your teams. You've created all this greatness. You've created ebooks. You've created libraries, in many cases, of content. There are marketing teams who are pushing out ebooks every week, once a month, whatever it may be. You build your library. But then you have to empower your employees. And by empowering them, you give them the right tools. But tools alone aren't going to do it for you. You can't just buy something and think that magically it's all going to take care of itself. It comes down to training. So we're constantly involved with our sales team. I think they have me on speed dial. They send me messages on LinkedIn. Where is this? Where can I find this ebook? I have a customer that's interested in this. Where can we find it? And we empower them. We give them the training. We teach them the best practices that they can then teach to their customers. So they're winning and our customers is winning. It's all value. It's all driven on value. By empowering your teams, they start becoming thought leaders on their own. They start feeling comfortable and confident. And when I was in sales years ago, before I transitioned into marketing, the one thing that I found was the most impactful as a salesperson was having conviction in what I sold. In fact, I was at a company once that the sales leadership had said, if you don't believe in what you're selling, go find a new job. And I believe that to be true. If you don't have conviction or a passion for what you're selling, your customer is going to know that. They're going to hear it in your voice. They're going to see it in your body language. So part of the job I have is to empower our sales team to feel convinced. This is not some fad, and the data now is proving it. Leveraging social media as a sales profession is having a massive impact into revenue, into ROI, into other organizations, in your own company, globally, across the region. So empowering your sales team should be a focus, and leveraging content is probably one of the best ways to do that. So how do we do that? How do we empower our sales teams to share the content, become the distribution model? One of the best ways we found is by adding the rich media into their profiles. Your profile is your online identity. And your salespeople's online identities should reflect the company they work with. Now, you can't mandate what somebody does with their profile, but most great salespeople, most good salespeople, are going to want to be polished. They're going to want a prospect or somebody to hit their profile and see value. So, as marketers, we have to empower them. We have to give them the content to share. From videos to ebooks to white papers to other blog posts. It doesn't need to always be about me. It could be just about the industry. But you build up your profile in a way that when somebody hits it, it becomes a resource. So we send it to them in batches. When the Sales Navigator launched, we sent them 15 or 20 things that they could add. Some of the reps added one thing, some of them added 3, some of them wallpapered their entire profile, which I loved, thank you very much. But you send it to them in batches, and you say, here's new stuff to cycle through. And then you do it incrementally. As new stuff gets created, you notify them and say, here's new stuff that you should be putting in your profile. That does 2 things. 1, it alerts them that there's something new that they should be learning from. And 2, as they add it into their profiles, it sends an update to their entire network. The connections that they've built, hopefully within the decision makers in the companies they're trying to sell into, that there's a new asset for them to look at. And then teach them how to use their status updates. So about once a week, been pretty bad because I'm traveling a lot, but now it's like every 2 weeks, send a status update to your top connections, the people who you're most engaged with. Mention them on LinkedIn. Happy Monday. Really great talking with you guys. Thanks for connecting with me. And if you mention them in these status updates, these people that you're connected to, they're going to engage back. Engagement is key. By letting them know that you are paying attention to them, that you're thinking about them, it matters. 99.9% of the time when I mention somebody a status update, they will either comment or like on what I say. And I challenge all of you to do the same thing. When you mention somebody in a status update, they'll appreciate it. They will like it or they will comment on it. Use your status updates to inform your network. There's industry news. There's relevant content about the company, the space, whatever it may be. Press releases, blog posts, other content. It doesn't need to be all about me. It doesn't need to be about my company or your product or your service. Use your sales team as a way to educate the market so that when anybody out there thinks of, I need X, Y, and Z service, or I need this widget, they know exactly who to go to, because there's a thought leader that they're connected to on LinkedIn that knows this space well. Your network is your business. Who you know is more important than what you know. If you're connecting with the right people, even if you don't have the answer at the moment, you will be connected to somebody who can help you with that. Build your connections the right way. We've heard it many times since this morning. Connecting with people for the sake of connecting with people, it's a vanity metric. It doesn't matter if you have 7,000 connections on LinkedIn or 20,000 connections if they're meaningless. I would rather have 250 connections that I know will do anything I ask them to do or can come to me and ask me any question than have 40,000 that really could do nothing for me. Build your network very strategically and spend time with them. Get to know them. Follow their feeds. Engage with them, and they will engage back. And when that happens, when we're creating content, when we're breaking it down and giving our sales teams the right nuggets to share, when we're creating the content that educates a market, when we're treating them as a distribution channel so that they can, one, learn from it, become self-educated, and at the same time become thought leaders and educate a market, and they're doing this and also building their connections, they're leveraging the platform the right way, you start realizing that business just starts flooding in. It's a flywheel. Once you start spinning it, it just keeps on going. And more people will start hearing about this individual sales rep or your company. And they'll keep coming back to you. And you'll start getting referral business from it. Because you have become the thought leader. Your brand, your company, and your individual teammates have become thought leaders in a space based on thinking like a publisher and distributing it through a very strategic network. And when that happens, everybody wins. So why is sharing important? We can say that engagement is great, but we have data to prove it. Sales reps that exceed their quota engage with prospects 39% more than the laggards based on SSI scores. Engaging with people on the network actually has an ROI. Even better than that, when you are sharing relevant content, when you are creating and curating content around your industry and around your market, you find that your updates get engaged more often. And sales reps that exceed their quota have their updates engaged 98% more than laggards. So think about that as you're sharing things. Is it going to speak to my connections? If it's not speaking to your connections, one of two things is happening. You either have the wrong connections or you're sharing the wrong stuff. And one of those two things, if you dial it in, you'll start realizing that most of your updates start getting engaged more often. And now I guess we go to Q&A. Thank you, everyone.